everybody.
Hi everybody.
Welcome to Draw With Me Kids Edition.
We're going to wear, or no, we're not going to wear. We're going to draw. I am wearing.
Which is that?
Poof.
I'm going to help enchant everybody's pencils. Poof. We have my mom's little dragon armor and beetle armor and little armor plate. And my mommy's aliens. More armor. Next we have my alien from the Pizza Planet in Toy Story.
You can say it louder if you want to. You don't have to be so shy. These are looking great. And last one, but not least.
This is the alien that I taught everybody to do last week. He's supposed to kind of look like the classic gray alien. But this is him. And he's got a sunset planet.
He's got a sunset planet. That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so this week we thought we'd do something that could be very helpful, not just for drawing witches, but for drawing other headgear. Because drawing hats can actually cause some people a little bit of a headache, not just because it's headwear. So Sophia's going to teach us how to draw a witch's hat, which is using what simple shapes?
Which is using... There's going to be an oval and a triangle and a rectangle and a kind of curvy-wurvy rectangle.
Okay, so what we're going to start off with, because if you remember us doing faces, I don't even remember what week that was, 8?
No, I thought
or 10?
I don't know.
We always start off with an oval or a circle for the face, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody can see that. I'm just going to keep it. I've got a decent eraser, so. And one of the tricks we taught about drawing a face is drawing our map of where everything goes. And a halfway point is where the eyes go, and halfway between that and the chin is where the nose go, and halfway is approximately where the lips go. So when you're drawing a hat, I'm going to show you where the first line is going to be, and then Miss Rainbows is going to take over, right, bud?
Yeah.
So if you want to be able to see the face of your character, you want to make sure all of your plot lines, if you will, are doing a curve around your oval, the slight upward tilt. And the brim of your hat is going to start...
I'm going to teach how to do the hats today as well.
Yep. It's going to start just above where the eye line is going to be. Ready? Want to take over from here?
So, what you're going to do, you're going to definitely need your eraser for this.
Bing.
Draw an oval on top of your character's head.
Now, in this case, as I demonstrated, I'm going to just slightly start it above where I want the forehead to be.
Grab your eraser.
So it looks a bit like a planet, doesn't it?
Yeah. Grab your eraser and erase all of the overlaps that you have.
Now it looks like a little planet for me. Okay.
Next, you're going to erase a small triangle-shaped hole in the top. So if you can imagine, this is your oval here. You want to erase the parts like that. See where I put my triangle?
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to erase the triangle.
And this is where I'm going to
lines inside it.
Jump in here too. That if you still have an outline of where your head is, that's going to help you pick where the triangle should start and on either side. Because You don't want it to be right up against the head, because there'll be a little bit of space in between the head and the material of the hat. But you also don't want it so far out that it would just fall down over the eye. So it has to look like it's sitting on the head properly. So you make your triangle.
So what you're going to do next
Oh,
is you're
we
going
haven't done that
to
yet.
start a triangle without the bottom, poking up from the hat. Where you erased, you're going to make the triangle.
Okay.
Next, what you're going to do is erase the very tippity top of the triangle.
What are we going to do with that?
Hmm.
Okay. Tippity top is gone.
The very
I
tippity
don't know if I
top.
have any space left here. I'll just have to see where you're going to go.
Next, you're going to draw the edge of the triangle and curve
We're
it.
going to flop it over a bit.
Because if you draw a taller hat, more of it will be curved.
True.
Because of the space that your head isn't occupying.
Very good. That's right. The space that your head isn't occupying. Now, one of the things that happens a lot with people drawing hats is they don't make it enough space for a head to actually go into it. So that's why I said mention to make sure your lines start on either side of the oval. And I think you did a good job of that, Miss Rainbows.
Yeah.
And you also want to make sure it goes on deep enough onto the head so it doesn't look like it has fallen off. So now that we've got our triangle part of the hat, what do we do next?
Next, you're going to draw a kind of curvy rectangle that goes around the top, the middle, the bottom of your hat on the triangle portion. Next, you're going to grab your eraser and erase a square shape in the middle. Straight down
Are
the
we
middle
doing
of
a
the
buckle on it? Okay.
And then put a slightly bigger square. And then draw a square in the middle of the square.
So this is used to be based off of the Puritan hat shape, where they would have sort of a buckle brim around their hat. So super old-timey witches.
If you like, you can draw like a little bit of something off the end.
Yeah,
of the
I like
hat.
to do a trail, but that was my kind of thing. I went a little crazy on mine. Oh, I like yours. You're doing little sparkle streamers.
It's the sun, the moon, and the star.
The sun, the moon, and the stars. I just did a broccoli. Okay, it's not really broccoli, but it kind of makes me think it's broccoli.
It does.
Anyway, so that.
I
What
have
else do we do?
a small bit left as
Small
hat
bit left.
that I like to tell everybody.
Yep.
If you're making a taller hat, there we go. If you're making a tall hat, erase a little bit more of the top for the floppy curve.
Yeah, you can have a bigger. Yeah. This is true. Here, I'm going to come over into your thing for a second here. Because if you look at my hat has absolutely no support in it. So it doesn't stay up very well. This sort of flops over. And you can see where my head is, and the rest of it trails back. But
What I like to do is I like to turn my witches into cats.
you like to make your witches into cats. I like that you're putting your cat ears flopped down. This is another thing I was going to start to bring up, and I'm going to let you go creative with your witch now, Sophia, and I'll talk of some of the common things that happen to people when they draw hats. So I've got my basic character here, has their hat on. And one of the things you have to think about when somebody's wearing a hat is where their hair is going to go. So if you have a character that has long hair, the hat can go over top of it, and it would come out either side of that hat, so you could have a witch with long hair. If you had a character that had super curly hair, that hat might not fit the same. So you might have to make that hat just a little bit bigger. These are things you have to think about should think about when you're putting a hat on a character, like a crown or a hat. you want to think about which direction your character is facing. So here's another example with the brim down. So you might just catch the eyes here and the brim's down, and you would see more of that hat there. That was just a quick one. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's just a difference of which direction three-dimensionally the brim of that hat is going. Miss Rainbows looks like she's done sort of more like this for her hat, which is cool. The other thing you might want to consider is if you do have a cat that's wearing a witch's hat, you can do it like Miss Rainbows has, where her ears are sort of flopping out like this because they're being pressed down by the hat. Or maybe your witch cat is familiar with wearing a hat and has holes cut in the hat. So you would see the ears. Think about where the ears would come up on your head and pop them up on either side of the hat. So that's one way you could do cat ears on a hat. Because one of the things that I find a lot of people tend to do, I'll go on to another one and then I'll finish my witch, is when you're drawing a hat, and I'll do this in color because then everybody can see. In maroon, let's do a maroon color. So what some people will do with a hat is just sort of draw a hat like, this is my baseball cap and it's on. I have a hard time not balancing off, but it's sort of just floating there on the head. It's not really on the head. So you really do have to think about your head shape as a round oval, where the eyeballs are going to start, and find that brim to cover the whole head. And then if you've got a baseball hat, maybe this character is, well, I did it this way. So this character's face might be covered with the baseball hat. Or it might be a little shorter, who knows. But you sort of have to decide when you're building this character. If you're doing a baseball hat, and you want to see the face, you'd always do this shape. Because then the brim comes up and you're looking under the brim. Kind of idea. But I find a lot of people draw the hats so that they don't sit or settle on the head properly. They look a little bit like they're floating. Well, this isn't the best pencil I picked. This pencil is a little bit out of ink, or out of lead. So we'll try this one. I'm striking out on all the pencils today. So for a witch to have a hat, you want to think about some characteristics, or let's do a crown actually even. For somebody to wear a crown, you want to think about, is this a crown that fits them? What kind of crown is it? Is it one that goes all the way around the head, for example? Where are the eyeballs in relation? So here's somebody from the side wearing a crown. On the side, there's the oval. There's the nose, and sort of, it's almost half of the oval shape that we're building this hat on, this head on, crown on. And you could do a tiara, which would sit more up, but yeah, when you're thinking about somebody wearing a hat, you've got to think about the amount of hair that they have underneath. The fact that most hats are supported not by just your head, but by down to your ears, floating on your ears. And the padding of your hair. If you have a character that doesn't have any hair, then it's really going to be the ears that are going to catch it. The brow that's going to catch it. So while you probably want to show a lot of your character's face in a picture like our witches that we're doing here today, you can make the hat just as much a piece of that character as not. Like if you wanted to have a character, a witch character who her hat's far too big for her head, I just slightly modify this and make my oval just a bit smaller. You can still sort of see under this hat, see what's going on and why it's maybe not fitting this character too well. She's a little witch trying to get into a hat that might be just a
like it's her mummy's hat.
Bit too big for her. So here's her ears. They might have just caught the edge of that hat. It's kind of hard with the... Yeah, maybe she's wearing her mama's hat. And the rest of her head is sort of popped up in here. Just to give you that perspective. Well, where'd the rest of that oval go? It sort of gets popped up in here. And her eyes would sort of just be, you might catch just a little bit of her eye peeking out here. And then her nose is almost right here. Like, oh my gosh, this thing's so big. It's practically covering my eyes. And there's my nose. And then this sort of pouty, it doesn't quite work for me, hat. So that's one thing you consider. If a hat is too big, it just sort of falls down onto their head. I originally was going to do a picture of yokai or sleeping, because I think sleeping is the Inktober theme today. And I really didn't know how we were going to do sleeping. And then Miss Rainbow said, I want to learn how to draw witches and mummies and things like that. So we're drawing some witches' hats. I thought it would be a good idea too to talk a little bit about, you know, how you can use those hats to sort of show more about your character, or have the hat be the character. I'll just keep going on this. Maybe you could even put this little witch is sort of trying to poke the hat up so you can sort of just see a little bit more of her eyeball. There you go. So one of the key things, oh, I love your witch, Miss Rainbows. It's beautiful.
One of the fastest ways I've discovered to color in a large area,
yeah,
is to use a brush that is 2,222 pixels.
Oh, it's like huge. I didn't actually get any time to do any trivia today. This is going to be a pretty short art jam today, doing our witches.
Mm-hmm.
But it will give us some opportunity and time that if you've got any questions about, well, not just hats or witches or how to draw your character, but if you have other questions and other things that you want to draw, you can comment and let us know, and we'll do questions and stuff today. This person's little nose is like, it's sort of the bridge is what's keeping this thing up. I decided maybe she's got a little bit of a mischievousness about her. Let's see if I've got another color here. We can help. I think that's purple from last week. My purple from last week. So what are some of the Halloween things that you're going to be doing this year, Miss Rainbows? I know it's going to be a wee bit different, isn't it? Like, what have they decided for our town?
There won't be trick-or-treating.
Yeah. It's a bit sad, isn't it? Oops. That's why we have no lead. It's a bit sad though, eh? But we kind of decided a while ago, even before our public health group said no trick-or-treating. What did we decide to do?
We're doing a little scavenger hunt where we got a lot of candy.
Yep.
And we're gonna each have a certain type of candy. Oh, how should you draw scarves, necklaces, or shirt collars?
Ooh, these are awesome questions. You can keep telling us about what you're gonna do with your candy, and I'll talk about those questions in just a sec.
But we're gonna each have a specific type of candy. And then we're gonna try and hide it around the house.
Yep.
And see who can find the most of that person's candy. Or of the other candies.
So, Em's asked a really good question about jewelry, like necklaces, what else do we have here? Necklaces, scarves,
or shirt collars.
Shirt collars. So, I didn't do one for this little character, which is fine. I could add one, but you have to think about, for any of those objects, think about the form of the character or the neck or what it is you're draping across, and how best that scarves, because they're very malleable, they're very light. So I'll just do a quick form here of a faceless person. I'll do a little face there. There's a little face. So if this person had, oh man, I'm going to do 3 in a row here. These people had scarves or shirts or whatever. You think about the neck as a cylinder. So when we think about the basic shapes, we think about the neck being a cylinder, and we think about gravity and how it would affect what we're drawing. So for a scarf, like, I don't know if there's any Harry Potter fans, they're usually big and bulky, or you could have light and airy scarves too. You do the form around the neck, sort of like circles, curves, and think about how it might fold on each other. So I've sort of done like a B shape here, and like the letter B. There'd be a knot in the back perhaps. So this is just a very loose scarf. You could pile that shape on top to get a very thick scarf. But always keep in mind that the neck is like a cylinder. And then you can sort of drape gravity like that to make a winter scarf, for example. A necklace, you could have a choker, which would do the same kind of thing, would follow along the neckline. But if you had something that was more like a pendant that person's wearing, the heaviest part's going to be the decoration on the pendant. So think about where you want that to go on your person, and start with that, and then draw the lines almost straight to a point in the neck where it would sink to touch the shoulders, because that would be a gravity thing. So that would be a necklace example. And for a shirt or a collar, wow. And that one's a tough one, because there's so many different styles of shirts and collars, but it's also an important one. So very similar to neckwear, necklaces. So if you want to do multiple layers, you can do that with as long as you're following that curve of the neck. With collars, it's again about what kind of collar you want. If you want an open collar, you could do something very similar to that necklace, where you put a point when you want to connect, draw the opening of the collar, and then if you want something big and dramatic, like a flared neckline, or if you just want a shirt collar, here's a shirt collar. It's how you would start a flared neckline too. You draw sort of a triangle thing that's shaped and framed around the neck, and then make like a tent, so it's sort of, you can see the underfold. And think about how that shirt collar would go around a person's neck. I'm kind of drawing offside here, so this is a little bit weird for me. And it would sort of disappear like that around a neck. It looks like they have a bit of a travel pillow on them right now. Oh, that is not a good eraser. This is a good eraser. So you'd follow the form of the neck kind of like that, and not be afraid of where it might overlap. So it's sort of a raised shirt collar. And if this were a flare collar that you've sort of, somebody's popped open their shirt, because lots of fantasy illustrations have that, you'd sort of increase the space of material you'd see in the fold. I don't know, that's sort of more like a vampire collar than it's really a shirt collar, but that's really exaggerated.
It goes with Halloween, though.
It does kind of go with Halloween, a vampire collar, wouldn't it? That would be one way. If you want it closed, even crazier. Again, same kind of advice, Em. Follow the neckline. Hopefully this is helpful. Draw your base. It's always good to sort of have that light base skeleton underneath it, or forms that you're filling out. And to close that collar, I'm trying to think of somebody wearing a closed top. Do I have a closed collar? Ian's got his shirt open. I've got Ian Malcolm on my desk. He's not wearing his shirt closed. Do I have any of my other pictures or characters that might help? So yeah, you would have the collar form, which sort of follows the neck just the same way. And maybe the collar meets. Think of it like that, like this scarf wrapping around. Think of that wrapping around, except it ends in sharper shapes. So there would be sort of a collar. It's kind of a rough collar, but I hope that kind of helps. Maybe that was a little confusing, but
Mommy,
it's all about following the neckline and thinking.
I want a color on the wall, like it's a wall behind, but it won't let me color.
We'll let you color. What wall? Where?
I want to color all the white.
Sorry, I'm going to grab that. And so what I like to do in that case, Sophie, is just do right there. Oh, did you start on a base layer? Oh yeah, you did. You did. So there.
Ooh, yay.
Does that help? Okay. Oh, you have to unselect it. There you go. Go back to your brush. Small technical difficulty with Photoshop. So yeah, it's just all about following that cylinder of the neck that you create, and then sort of showing the pieces that you may or may not see of that collar. I guess the basic of it would be the scarf is one of the easier ones to do, and the necklace, depending on how elaborate. But always think about, for a necklace and even for the scarf, if you're doing multiple layers, this would be not around a neck because your shoulders might be there. So you want to make sure you're not stacking things too crazy on it to lose the form or the shape of the body underneath. Oh, that's... If that's helpful or not, And it's always about, anytime you're adding things like the hat, for example, or anything on the head, you're always following the head shape, just like anything around the neck. Follow the neck shape, but also keep in mind gravity. So if she had a pendant that was right there, she might go right up to there because that's where her neck and her shoulder meets. And if she's sort of flying around and you want to show that a bit, you could sort of think, well, maybe the pendant's flying out over here. That would kind of stretch, but be stopped by her neck a bit. And then you could sort of be a little bit more creative with that. If you're static, it's easier. If you're adding some motion, which makes the picture that much more interesting, it makes it a little harder too. But like for that scenario, maybe make her pendant come whoosh like that. Let's do that in. Do you have any black left? You don't have any black left. Oh yeah, you do. Do a black sort of flying out wild pendant. So it's sort of everything else in this picture. If I did that, should indicate maybe more like her hair would be more flying this way, and I might have changed this direction just to give that sense of motion. Alright, well we've done 33 minutes. Oh, look at your witch. She's cool. She's sort of a floating head right at the moment. I love her. With a kitty. Well done, Miss Rainbows. Oh, there is her outfit. I was going to do Wisp today with the hat, but I kind of like this cute little cutie, this little witch that's, her hat's too big for her head. So, we will be back next week with another spooktacular, probably our last spooktacular prompt, right? Because it'll be Halloween on the Saturday following it. Oh my gosh, can you believe it?
What the?
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us for another short episode of Draw With Me Kids Edition. What are you doing?
Magic spell.
Poof, for a very good week for everybody, and hope that you stay creative, stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Enjoy. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Where's my hat anyway?
Bye. What's happening?